Hello there. As a student, I had the good fortune to take Nonviolent Defense and Conflict Resolution from Patrick van Inwegen. Dr. van Inwegen was a remarkable man who was kind and compassionate, and he took care of those he loved. But perhaps even more remarkable, Dr. van Inwegen gave an honest shake to those who disagreed with him. He engaged in honest intellectual arguments with those who supported points that were the antithesis of his own. And as a tribute to Dr. van Inwegen, let's talk about what Theodore Roosevelt said about war in Citizenship and a Republic. There are well-meaning philosophers who declaim against the unrighteousness of war. They are right only if they lay all their emphasis upon the unrighteousness. War is a dreadful thing, and unjust war is a crime against humanity. But it is such a crime because it is unjust, not because it is a war. The choice must ever be in favor of righteousness, and this is whether the alternative be peace or whether the alternative be war. The question not be merely, is there to be peace or war? The question must be, is it right to prevail? Are the great laws of righteousness once more to be fulfilled? And the answer from a strong and virile people must be yes, whatever the cost. Every honorable effort should always be made to avoid war, just as every honorable effort should always be made by the individual in private life to keep out of a brawl, to keep out of trouble. But no self-respecting individual, no self-respecting nation can or ought to submit to wrong. So what does Roosevelt mean here? Well, he's saying that on a large scale, he's opposed to war. On a global level, he's opposed because of the terrible cost. That cost to the nation, and the even greater cost to the sons and daughters that are sent to fight that war. It's a cost that cannot be repaid or reclaimed, and the sons and daughters that are lost in the war are gone forever. And who knows what they would have accomplished if they had lived to tell the tale. And those who make it back are not the same as they were. They have seen and done things that change them. And there's no telling what cost they have paid, even though they made it out with their lives. So in a global sense, Theodore Roosevelt is against war. And on a subscale of that, he is totally against certain types of wars, unjust wars. Unfortunately, a just and unjust war is a question that has confounded philosophers for centuries. Dr. van Inwegen was one of the current generation who sought to find an answer to the question of what constitutes a just war. When is war justified? And I think that Theodore Roosevelt is as close to the mark as we are likely to get. That war is justified when all other options have been exhausted. That the reasonable and the unreasonable alternatives have been attempted, and war is all that is left. Because I think it would be difficult to not reach consensus on war to defend yourself as justified. If you were attacked by someone in the street, they knock you to the ground and they start punching you, are you justified in defending yourself? I can't think of many people who might say no. So I believe the same applies to nations. That if a nation has exhausted its diplomatic abilities to defend itself, and if an opposing army has breached that country, then a war is justified. Beyond that point, there are so many different opinions that I don't believe it's worth going into here. Just be aware that the circumstances that surround the war and whether or not you're defending yourself or someone else complicate the matter. That the leaders responsible for that will have to live with the decisions they've made. The men and women who die as a result of their choices. That ultimately they are responsible to a higher power for the choices they've made while in leadership roles here on earth. Now, what does this get summed up as? Well, I think Theodore Roosevelt's little quip about walking softly and packing a big stick is our way to remember this, our heuristic. That we should be prepared for war, but that we should do everything in our ability to prevent it, as individuals and as a nation. I hope that you are prepared for whatever comes your way, and that you have the wherewithal to use every bit of your ingenuity, your ability, and your intellect to make sure that you don't have to use the ability to defend yourself. Until next time, cheers.